first light of dawn fell on the ruined battlefield, where broken machines and shattered armor lay across the scorched earth. Smoke curled into the air, the sky painted with the colors of fire and ash. The war between humans and alien forces had stretched across countless worlds, but here, on this forgotten planet, something different had begun. She stood at the center of the destruction, her golden eyes glowing against the shadows. Her name was not spoken by humans, for they called her only by what she represented. A weapon. She had been built by her creators to end humanity, designed with speed, strength, and an instinct for killing. Every part of her body carried the mark of war, from the blades she carried to the sharp ears that twitched at the faintest sound. She was flawless, beautiful, and deadly. Around her, the silence was broken only by the cries of wounded soldiers. She walked through the chaos with perfect calm, her presence enough to silence even the bravest human fighters. They had seen her before in whispers and shadows, calling her the huntress, the demon, the machine of war. No one who had faced her, up close, had lived to tell the tale. The human commander watched her from across the field, his breath heavy as he gripped his rifle. He knew what she was capable of, but he could not retreat. Orders had been given to hold this position at any cost. His men looked to him for courage, yet he could feel the weight of their fear pressing on his back. Against her, courage seemed like nothing more than a fragile shield. She moved with elegance, her blades reflecting the light of burning wrecks. In her mind, there was no question, no hesitation. Her purpose was simple: destroy humanity before they could rise too high, before they could challenge the galaxy itself. Every movement was calculated, every strike perfect. She had never known failure, yet as she prepared to advance, something unusual caught her attention. A single soldier standing among the rubble did not run. He did not hide or tremble like the others. He stood his ground, staring directly into her glowing eyes as though unafraid. His armor was damaged, his weapon nearly broken, but there was something unshaken in his stance. For a moment the world seemed to still around her. She tilted her head, her sharp gaze narrowing. Why did this one not flee? Why did his heart not break in terror as so many before him had? She felt something strange, something that had never touched her before. It was not weakness, nor hesitation. It was curiosity. The soldier raised his rifle slowly, his hands steady. He knew he had little chance of survival, yet his resolve was clear. To him it was not about victory. It was about standing, even when defeat was certain. His eyes carried a fire that matched the burning horizon, and for the first time in her existence she felt her heart falter. Her grip on the blades tightened. She reminded herself of what she was, what she had been built for. But no matter how strongly she commanded herself to strike, a new voice inside whispered against it. She felt the rhythm of her chest change, an unfamiliar pounding that distracted her senses. In the distance, explosions rumbled, shaking the ground beneath their feet. The war continued around them, yet in that small space between human and weapon, time seemed to hold its breath. She was built to kill humans. She was designed to feel nothing. And yet, as her golden eyes locked onto his, something inside her betrayed that purpose. She should have ended him in a single motion, as she had done countless times before. But instead, she hesitated. For the first time in her life, the perfect weapon paused, and in that pause a new story began. The battlefield roared with chaos. Ships circled overhead, firing beams of light that cut across the sky, while soldiers clashed in desperate struggle among the ruins. Yet she remained fixed on the human before her. The world around them blurred into noise, as if her senses cared only for this one man. She had been trained, programmed, and sharpened into the perfect weapon. Her creators filled her mind with commands, her instincts bound to kill without hesitation. But something broke in that moment. She watched the soldier stand, battered and bloodied, his weapon shaking in his hands yet never lowering. His courage stirred something deep inside her, something dangerous, an emotion she had never been meant to feel. The human soldier's chest rose and fell heavily, yet his eyes did not look away. He saw death staring at him, and still he refused to step back. The others had warned him of this alien huntress, this beast designed to slaughter his kind. They had told him to flee if ever he saw her glowing eyes. But he couldn't. Something inside him refused to abandon this fight, even if it meant certain death. She circled him slowly, her twin blades cutting arcs of light in the smoky air. The instincts inside her screamed to strike, to finish him quickly, to prove her perfection as a weapon. Yet her body betrayed her. Each step felt heavy, each motion slowed by a strange conflict within her chest. She narrowed her glowing eyes, trying to force her purpose back into place. Why was she hesitating? The soldier finally spoke, his voice rough and broken from battle. If you're going to kill me, then do it. But know this, humans don't break as easily as you think. The words struck her harder than any weapon ever could. No one had spoken to her like that before. No one had dared. She tilted her head, studying him as though he were some puzzle her creators had never prepared her for. Her ears twitched, her tail flicked behind her, and still she did not attack. She remembered the orders placed in her mind. Humans were dangerous, cunning, a threat to the galaxy. They were to be erased before they could spread further. Yet this one man with nothing but broken armor and fierce eyes seemed to stand taller than entire armies. For the first time, she wondered if the stories her makers had told her were not the full truth. A sudden blast shook the ground nearby, forcing rubble into the air. The soldier stumbled, nearly losing his balance, and in that instant her body moved without thought. Instead of striking him down, she reached out and pulled him away from the collapsing stone. Her blades remained at her sides, but her hand had chosen to save instead of destroy. The soldier froze, staring at her in shock. He had expected death, but instead he found himself alive, protected by the very enemy meant to end him. His mind raced, confusion and disbelief mixing with the pounding of his heart. She stepped back quickly, her expression fierce as if angry at herself. Her creators had not built her to protect, to hesitate, to feel. Yet in that instant she realized she had done all three. Her chest burned with a rhythm she could not control. Her sharp fangs gritted as though resisting her own body's betrayal. The soldier's lips curved into the smallest smile, despite the blood on his face. Strange. For someone built to kill, you don't seem eager to do it. Her eyes flared, and for a heartbeat she considered silencing him forever. But instead she turned away sharply, blades pointed at the ground. She hated this weakness, this failure. Yet deep down she knew it was no weakness at all. It was something else, something her kind had never intended for her to discover. The sounds of war pressed back into her awareness. Soldiers screamed, ships thundered, fire consumed the ruins. She knew her creators would be watching, expecting her to finish her task. But for the first time in her life, she did not obey. Somewhere inside, a new war had begun, not between alien and human, but within her own heart. The forest ruins trembled under the weight of war. Smoke drifted through broken arches while the clash of human and alien soldiers echoed in every direction. She moved silently among the chaos, her glowing eyes scanning, her blades gleaming in the dim light. But her mind was not on the battle. It was trapped on the soldier she had spared. He followed at a distance, keeping her within sight. His weapon was lowered, though his grip was firm, ready if she turned against him. He should have been afraid. Any sane human would have run from her. Yet he remained, moving through the battlefield as though pulled by the same strange force that had stopped her from killing him. She tried to ignore it, tried to bury the new sensation inside her chest. She had been trained to silence doubt, to erase emotion, to follow orders without pause. But the memory of his voice, the fire in his eyes, refused to fade. It lingered like a wound she could not close. The humans fought with desperation, holding back the alien machines that advanced through the ruins. She should have been cutting them down, ending their resistance as her makers commanded. Instead, she found herself watching, hesitating, feeling something her creators had never given her permission to feel. The soldier caught up to her, his boots crunching on broken stone. He spoke again, his voice quieter now, almost cautious. "You had me dead to rights back there. Why didn't you do it?" Her ears twitched, but she did not look at him. She could not explain it. Not to him, not even to herself. She had no answer that made sense. Was it mercy? He pressed. Her golden eyes narrowed. Mercy is weakness. I am not weak. Yet even as she said the words, her chest tightened. Weakness. No, this was something else. Something she could not name. The soldier chuckled softly despite the danger all around them. Then maybe you're not what they built you to be. His words struck her deeper than any blade. She turned to face him fully now, her fangs showing in a snarl. I'm a weapon. My purpose is clear. Do not mistake hesitation for change. But her voice carried no certainty. He heard the conflict in it, saw the way her grip on her blades was not as steady as before. She was built to kill humans, yet she had not killed him. And that truth lingered between them like a spark waiting to ignite. Another explosion tore through the ruins, sending both of them diving for cover. Alien drones swooped overhead, their glowing eyes scanning the battlefield, firing at any human in sight. The soldier raised his rifle, returning fire, but his weapon was nearly useless against the armored machines. Before he could be struck down, she moved. With speed that blurred the eye, she leapt into the path of the drone's fire, her blades cutting through the machine with impossible precision. Sparks rained down as the drone collapsed, its body split in two. The soldier stared at her, stunned. She had saved him again. Twice now she had chosen his life over her mission. Twice she had betrayed the purpose etched into her very being. Breathing heavily, he asked the question that weighed on his mind. Why are you helping me? She turned her back to him, hiding the turmoil in her eyes. I am not helping you, I am only choosing differently. But the truth was harder to deny with each passing second. Her creators had built her to be the perfect enemy of humanity. Yet with this one man, something was shifting inside her. Every moment she spent near him made the rhythm in her chest louder, stronger, more uncontrollable. The soldier stepped closer, his voice steady. Whatever they built you for, you're more than that. I can see it, and maybe so can you. Her tail flicked with agitation, her blades trembling in her hands. She wanted to deny it, to silence him forever. But deep inside, a dangerous realization had begun to grow. He was right, and that truth terrified her more than any war ever could. The night deepened over the ruins, yet the war did not slow. Fires burned across the forest floor, turning the air thick with smoke and ash. The cries of soldiers echoed in the distance, but here, between the broken arches of an ancient temple, it was almost quiet. She stood still, her blades crossed at her chest, trying to silence the noise inside her. The human soldier leaned against a shattered column, his chest rising and falling with exhaustion. His armor was cracked, blood smeared across his face, but he refused to rest fully. His eyes remained fixed on her, unblinking, as though studying a riddle that had no answer. She hated that stare. It pierced deeper than any weapon. No human had ever dared to look at her that way before, not with defiance, not with wonder. He was supposed to fear her, to run from her shadow like the rest of his kind. Yet his gaze was steady, unshaken, almost curious. Finally, he broke the silence. You saved me twice. That's not an accident. Her ears twitched, her glowing eyes narrowing. You think you understand me? You don't. Maybe not, he admitted, wiping the blood from his brow. But I know what I saw. You could have killed me and you didn't. You could have let me die, but you didn't. That means something. His words dug under her skin. She turned away sharply, stepping into the faint moonlight that poured through the temple roof. Her tail flicked in agitation, her blades lowered at her sides. I am a weapon. I was built to destroy your kind. Do not twist my choices into weakness. The soldier let out a faint laugh, not mocking, but tired. Funny thing about weapons. Sometimes, they decide what they're used for. She froze, her body rigid. No one had ever spoken such words to her. She had always been told she was nothing more than her purpose, her strength, her perfection in killing. But here was a human, her enemy, telling her she could be more. The thought felt dangerous, like a seed planted in forbidden soil. Suddenly, the ground shook with heavy steps. From the shadows emerged alien war machines, towering constructs of metal and fire, sent by her creators to finish what she had failed to do. Their glowing eyes turned toward the human soldier, their weapons charging with a rising hum. Her instincts screamed to step aside, to let them carry out the mission she had neglected. That was what she was built for. To stand with them. To kill. But when she looked at the soldier, battered yet unyielding, something inside her shifted again. The pounding in her chest grew louder, stronger. Without thinking, she moved. She leapt forward, blades flashing with bright arcs of steel. The machines fired, beams of energy tearing through stone, but her body twisted with perfect speed. She struck, slicing through armor plates, tearing wires apart with precise cuts. Sparks burst into the night as one machine collapsed, then another. The soldier watched in awe, unable to believe what he was seeing. The very weapon built to destroy his people was now fighting to protect him, tearing apart her own side with the fury of a storm. When the last machine fell, silence returned, broken only by the crackle of fire. She stood panting, blades dripping, with oil and sparks, her golden eyes glowing brighter than ever. The soldier stepped toward her cautiously, his voice low. Why would you fight them? They were your own." She clenched her fists, her chest rising with a tremor she could not hide. "They are not mine," she said at last, her voice shaking. "Not anymore." The soldier's lips parted, a mix of shock and something softer. For the first time, she had admitted aloud that she was no longer bound to her purpose. She had chosen. Yet deep inside, fear gnawed at her. If her creators learned of her betrayal, they would send more than machines. They would come for her themselves, and when they did, neither she nor the human standing before her would escape easily. Still, as she met his eyes again, that pounding in her chest did not stop. If anything, it grew stronger. The fires of the battlefield faded into a distant glow as she and the soldier slipped deeper into the ruins. Broken statues loomed in the moonlight, their faces worn by time, watching silently as the pair moved through the shadows. She kept her blades ready, every sense alert, yet her mind was far more restless than her body. For the first time, she had killed her own kind. Machines forged by her creators now lay shattered at her feet. That act was not small, it was treason. Somewhere, far above in the cold halls of her makers, eyes would already be watching. They would know she had disobeyed, and they would not forgive. The soldier walked a few paces behind her, limping from his wounds but refusing to slow. His eyes stayed fixed on her back, not with fear now, but with something else. He had seen her turn against her own machines, seen her fight to protect him. The image burned into his mind, impossible to forget. "You know they'll come after you," he said quietly. Her golden eyes flicked toward him. "I know. They'll call you a traitor." She stopped, turning fully to face him. "I am not a traitor. I was never theirs to begin with." Her words carried a sharp edge, but beneath it was something fragile. For so long she had believed she belonged to her creators, bound by the purpose they had carved into her very being. Yet now, standing here with a human who should have been her enemy, she felt free for the first time. The soldier gave a faint smile, despite the pain etched across his face. "Then maybe you belong with us." The suggestion hit her harder than any weapon. She looked away quickly, her tail flicking with unease. Belong? That word had never applied to her. She had been a weapon, not a person. A tool, not a companion. But when he said it, it felt less like a lie and more like a possibility she had never dared to imagine. The ground suddenly trembled, a deep rumble echoing through the ruins. Her ears twitched, catching a sound that sent her body rigid. Not machines, not drones. Something heavier, alive. From the shadows emerged a figure unlike any she had fought before, a towering alien warrior, clad in dark armor etched with glowing symbols. His eyes burned with cold fire, and in his hand he carried a weapon humming with deadly energy. The soldier's breath caught. "What is that?" She lowered her blades, her voice steady despite the pounding in her chest. "An enforcer. They've sent him for me." The enforcer stepped forward, his voice booming across the ruins. "Weapon of the makers, you have strayed. You were built for one purpose, to erase humanity. Instead, you protect it. You have failed your design, and failure must be erased." Her grip on her blades tightened. She knew this moment would come. The enforcers were the will of her creators, unstoppable and merciless. Even she had been taught to fear them. The soldier raised his broken rifle, though he knew it would do little against such a foe. Still, he stepped closer to her side. Then, "You're not facing him alone." She glanced at him, and for a heartbeat her chest trembled with something she could not name. He was fragile compared to her, yet he stood beside her without hesitation. That fire in his eyes burned just as fiercely as it had on the battlefield, and it made her own heart race faster. The enforcer raised his weapon, its glow casting sharp light across the ruins. "Choose your side, weapon. Strike down the human or be destroyed with him." She lifted her blades, golden eyes blazing with defiance. For the first time, her choice was clear, not because of her makers, not because of orders, but because of the fire she had found in her own heart. And with that choice, the true war was about to begin. The ruins shook as the enforcer stepped closer, his heavy armor grinding against the stone floor. His weapon pulsed with blue light, humming with the power to cut through steel and bone alike. Every part of him radiated strength, the kind her creators built to remind all their soldiers what true fear was. She had been trained to fear him too. Enforcers were legends among her kind, symbols of absolute control. No one disobeyed them, and those who did never lived long enough to speak again. But tonight was different. The soldier at her side tightened his grip on his broken rifle, though he knew it could not match the enforcer's power. His chest burned from wounds, his legs weak from exhaustion, yet his eyes held no fear. He glanced at her and gave the smallest nod as if to say, "If you fight, I fight too." Her chest pounded harder than the drums of war. For the first time in her life, she wasn't standing alone. The enforcer raised his weapon, his voice echoing like thunder. "You were built to serve. Your hesitation is weakness. Submit, and I will grant you an honorable end." Her golden eyes glowed brighter, her blades rising into a defensive stance. "I do not submit." In an instant, the enforcer lunged. His strike shattered the stone where she had stood a heartbeat before. She spun, blades flashing, sparks erupting as steel clashed. Against his energy weapon, the ruins lit up with the fury of their fight, blades ringing, dust rising, fire flickering in the night. The soldier ducked behind broken walls, firing when he could, though his bullets glanced harmlessly off the enforcer's armor. Still, he refused to retreat. Every shot, no matter how useless, was meant to remind her she was not alone. The enforcer's strikes were relentless. Each swing carried the weight of a mountain, forcing her to block with every ounce of strength. Her arms shook under the pressure, her claws digging into the stone as she pushed back. The weapon in his hands burned with power, carving deep scars into the temple walls. But she was fast, faster than she had ever been. With each attack, she slipped closer, her blades cutting shallow sparks into his armor. She moved not as a weapon, bound to orders, but as something new, something alive, something free. Yet the enforcer was unyielding. His next strike caught her across the side, throwing her into a pillar with crushing force. She gasped, her body trembling as cracks spread across her armor. The soldier cried out her name, rushing forward, but the enforcer turned his weapon toward him. She saw it, the beam charging, the glow ready to end him. Her body moved before thought could catch it. She leapt between them, her blades crossed. The blast struck, filling the ruins with light and thunder. Pain seared through her arms, her legs buckling, but she held her ground. For him. The soldier scrambled to her side, gripping her arm, his voice frantic. "You'll die if you keep this up." Her fangs bared, her eyes burning with a light even brighter than the enforcer's weapon. Then I will die choosing my own path. With a roar, she pushed back, her blades cutting through the beam, shattering its glow. She surged forward faster than the enforcer could react, her weapon slashing across his chest. Sparks exploded, his armor splitting, his stance faltering. The enforcer stumbled back, his voice a growl of fury. You are broken. She stood tall despite her wounds, golden eyes locked onto him. No, I am free. The soldier's breath caught as he looked at her. In that single declaration, she had severed the last chain her creators held on her. She was no longer theirs. She was her own. The enforcer steadied himself, rage burning, brighter. The battle was not over. But as she lifted her blades once more, standing shoulder to shoulder with the human soldier, something had changed forever. The weapon her makers had built to destroy humanity now fought to protect it. The air grew heavy with silence after her strike. Sparks crackled from the enforcer's armor where her blades had cut deep, but his stance remained unbroken. His glowing eyes burned hotter, his voice echoing through the ruins like rolling thunder. You dare defy your makers. You fight beside the very prey you were built to destroy. If you continue, there will be no forgiveness, only death. Her chest rose and fell, her breath uneven, her body aching from the blast she had endured. Yet when she looked at the soldier at her side, his broken rifle still clutched in his hands, she felt the fire inside her blaze higher. She had already chosen. There was no turning back. The enforcer slammed his weapon into the ground. Energy rippled outward in a violent wave, shaking the ruins. Stone cracked and walls tumbled. The soldier was thrown from his feet, barely catching himself on a broken pillar. She steadied herself with her claws digging into the floor, her glowing eyes never leaving the towering figure. He was no ordinary warrior. She could see now. He was holding back. The glow of his weapon brightened, and his armor sealed itself, where she had struck him, repairing as if her attack had been nothing. Her creators had sent not just a fighter, but a monster forged to crush rebellion before it could even spark. The soldier pushed himself up, his voice strained but firm. We can't beat him head on, he's too strong. Her fangs showed in a sharp grin, half pain, half defiance. Then we will find another way. The enforcer charged, faster than his size should allow. His weapon swung down with the force of a falling star. She leapt to meet him, her blades crossing, the clash, lighting up the ruins with a blinding flash. The ground shook, dust rained from the temple ceiling and cracks spread under their feet. The soldier ran to her side, firing round after round at the enforcer's exposed joints. The bullets sparked uselessly off the armor, but it drew the enforcer's attention just long enough. She twisted, sliding beneath his guard, her blades carving into the glowing core at his side. The enforcer roared, his hand snapping out and catching her by the throat. He lifted her easily, her feet leaving the ground as his grip tightened. Sparks flew from her armor, her claws digging into his arm, but his strength was overwhelming. The soldier's heart pounded as he saw her choking in the enforcer's grip. Without thinking, he dropped his useless rifle and grabbed a shattered spear, lying nearby. It was crude, broken, and no match for alien armor. But it was all he had. He charged. With a desperate cry, he drove the spear into the enforcer's leg, just below the armor plating. The weapon snapped on impact, but the force staggered the giant for a heartbeat. It was enough. She seized the moment. Her blades flashed upward, cutting across the enforcer's wrist. His grip broke, sparks spraying as she dropped to the ground. She gasped. Air flooding back into her chest, golden eyes blazing with fury. The enforcer turned his rage on the human, raising his weapon to strike him down. But she moved faster, her blades cut across his chest in a storm of strikes. Each blow, driving him back, sparks and smoke bursting with every impact. The ruins shook as the enforcer stumbled, his armor cracking wider, his weapon flickering as its glow weakened. Yet even wounded, he stood tall, his voice a growl of dark promise. You cannot escape them. Your makers will send more. They will burn this world to ash if they must. She lowered her blades, her chest heaving, her golden eyes locked on him. Then let them come. I am not theirs anymore. The soldier stepped to her side, his eyes fierce despite the blood on his face. And she's not alone. The enforcer's gaze shifted between them, and for the first time there was hesitation in his stance. He had not expected this. A weapon built for war and a fragile human soldier standing together, unbroken, defiant. The ruins crackled with silence, as if the world itself was waiting for the next move. The temple ruins shook as the enforcer straightened, his armor crackling with energy. The wound she had carved across his body sealed with a hiss, the glowing cracks fading until his frame looked whole once more. His eyes flared brighter than fire, and the hum of his weapon grew into a roar. The soldier's breath caught. He's healing? Her golden eyes narrowed. No, he's evolving. The enforcer slammed his fist against his chest. Energy surged outward, turning the air thick and heavy. The broken stones at his feet floated for a moment before shattering into dust. His voice thundered through the ruins. You think you have chosen freedom? But there is no freedom. There is only the will of your makers, and I am that will made flesh. The soldier clenched his fists, frustration boiling inside him. He had already seen how hard it was for her to stand against him, and now he was stronger. His broken rifle was useless, his body battered. Yet when he looked at her, bent but unbroken, golden eyes blazing, he felt his own resolve harden. If she stood, he would stand too. The enforcer moved first. In a blur of speed, he was upon them, his weapon crashing down. She met him head-on, her blades crossing with a sound like thunder. Sparks exploded. The ground cracked beneath them, and the air shook with every clash. But this time, his strength was overwhelming. Each strike drove her back, her arms trembling as she blocked. Cracks spread across her armor, pain seared through her body. The soldier darted between fallen pillars, trying to distract the enforcer with whatever weapons he could scavenge. Shards of stone, broken steel. Nothing pierced the armor. But each distraction bought her a breath, a moment to recover, a chance to fight. The enforcer's weapon finally slipped past her guard, slamming into her side. She cried out, the impact sending her sprawling into the rubble. Dust rose in a choking cloud as she struggled to stand. The enforcer turned his attention to the human soldier. His steps shook the earth, each one echoing with deadly intent. The soldier raised a shard of broken blade, his breath ragged but his eyes steady. He knew he could not win. He knew this could be his last moment. But he refused to run. The enforcer lifted his weapon high, its glow ready to strike him down. And then she moved. Through pain, through broken armor, through the tremor in her legs, she surged forward. Her blades flashed like lightning as she struck the enforcer's arm, forcing his attack wide. Sparks flew, the blast carving a scar into the earth instead of the soldier's chest. The soldier stumbled back, alive by inches, his eyes wide with shock. She stood between him and the enforcer, her body trembling but unyielding. If you want him, she growled, her fangs bared, you'll have to go through me. The enforcer's eyes narrowed. You protect him as if he matters. He is nothing. Fragile, weak, destined to fade. Why sacrifice yourself for such a creature? Her chest rose and fell, the strange pounding in her heart stronger than ever. She did not have the words for it, not fully. But when she looked back at the soldier, his eyes burning with that same stubborn fire, she understood enough. Because he made me feel alive. The enforcer's face twisted with disgust. Then you are broken beyond repair. His weapon flared again, brighter than ever. The ground split, fire leaping from the cracks. She tightened her grip on her blades, her golden eyes blazing with defiance. The soldier stepped beside her, weaponless but unshaken. The enforcer roared, his full power unleashed. And together, human and weapon stood as one, ready to face it. The ruins shook as the enforcer unleashed his full power. Waves of energy rippled across the ground, toppling pillars and shattering stone. The temple glowed with the crackle of light, every corner alive with burning sparks. He moved with a speed that defied his massive frame, each strike crashing like thunder, each swing threatening to end everything in one blow. She met him head-on, her blades flashing with desperate speed. Sparks burst with every clash, her golden eyes locked onto his. Each strike rattled her bones, each block sending pain tearing through her arms. Her armor was cracked, her strength fading, but still she refused to fall. The soldier darted between fallen walls, searching for anything that could help. His broken rifle hung useless on his shoulder, his hands bleeding from gripping shattered stone and rusted steel. He was not strong like her. He was not built to fight gods. But his heart refused to quit. The enforcer's weapon roared, striking her chest and throwing her into the rubble. Dust and fire swallowed her, the glow of her eyes vanishing in the smoke. The soldier froze, his breath caught. For a moment, it looked as though she was gone. The enforcer turned toward him, towering like a shadow of death. This is the weakness of humanity. You stand, but you cannot win. Your courage is meaningless. The soldier's grip tightened on a shattered spearhead. His legs shook, but his eyes never wavered. Maybe. But if courage means standing even when I can't win, then that's what makes us human. He charged. The enforcer almost laughed at the sight of it, fragile flesh running at armored perfection. But before his weapon could strike, a golden light cut through the smoke. She rose again, broken and bleeding, her blades blazing with fury. With a roar that shook the ruins, she struck the enforcer from the side, her blades digging deep into his armor. Sparks and fire exploded as she forced him back. "He is not meaningless," she cried. "He is the reason I fight." The soldier stumbled beside her, his broken spear raised like a banner. Together they pressed forward, one human, one weapon, against the might of their enemy. The enforcer staggered under their combined assault. The soldier's attacks were weak, but each strike drew the enforcer's focus, just long enough for her to land heavier blows. Her blades cut deeper, faster, fueled, not by orders but by the pounding in her heart. Still, the enforcer would not fall. His armor cracked but did not shatter. His weapon flickered but did not die. With a furious strike, he slammed her into the ground once more, his foot pinning her down. His weapon turned toward the soldier, its glow building for the final blow. The soldier stood his ground, chest heaving, blood dripping from his hands. He knew he could not block it. He knew this could be the end. But he refused to step back. His eyes locked on hers as she struggled beneath the enforcer's weight. For a moment no words were needed. She saw him, he saw her, and in that look, their will became one. With a roar, she tore herself free, her blades crossing in a desperate strike that cut straight into the enforcer's core. The glow erupted in a violent flash, the force blasting both her and the soldier back into the rubble. The ruins fell silent. Smoke curled into the night sky. The enforcer's body stood for a moment, sparks crackling from his chest, before collapsing in a crash that shook the earth. The soldier coughed, pulling himself from the dust, his body bruised and broken. His eyes searched, fear rising in his chest. Then he saw her, lying in the rubble, her chest rising and falling with shallow breaths, her golden eyes still glowing faintly. She was alive. Barely. The soldier staggered to her side, dropping to his knees. "You're still here," he whispered, his voice shaking. Her lips curled into the faintest smile. "I told you that I choose my own path." But above them, far away in the night sky, more lights began to appear. Her creators were watching, and now they would send more. The ruins were quiet, except for the crackle of fire and the slow rhythm of her breathing. The enforcer's broken body lay still, smoke rising from its shattered core. She had defeated him, but victory felt thin. Above, the night sky burned with new lights, dozens, then hundreds. Ships. Her creators had seen everything. And now they were coming. The soldier knelt beside her, his hands trembling as he checked her wounds. Her armor was cracked, her skin bruised, and golden light flickered faintly in her eyes. She was alive, but only just. He pressed his hand to hers, his voice rough. "We need to move, more are coming." She turned her head slowly, meeting his gaze. For a long moment she said nothing. Then, with a weak smile, she whispered, "No, they will never stop chasing. Not while I live." The soldier's chest tightened. "Don't say that. We'll find a way. Together." Her golden eyes softened, something gentle sparking beneath the pain. You made me feel something I was never meant to feel. For the first time I was more than a weapon. That cannot be erased, no matter what happens. The sky rumbled as the fleet drew closer, beams of light piercing the clouds. The ruins trembled under the force of their engines. She struggled to rise, her blades trembling in her grip, but her body faltered. The soldier caught her, holding her up with his strength alone. You don't have to face this alone anymore, he said firmly. Not now. Not ever. She looked at him, her chest pounding with that same strange rhythm she had felt since their first meeting. A rhythm she now knew was her heart. The heart her makers never wanted her to have. Her tail flicked weakly, her lips curving in a tired but beautiful smile. Then let us face them. Together. The fleet opened fire. Beams of light rained down from the heavens, tearing through the forest, shattering what little remained of the ancient ruins. The ground split. Fire consumed the night. She stood beside the soldier, her blades glowing one last time with fierce golden light. Her voice carried across the battlefield, not to her creators, but to him. You gave me a reason to fight, and if this is the end, then I choose it, and with you. The soldier gripped his broken weapon, raising it high even as the sky fell. His voice, hoarse but steady, answered her. Then let's show them what it means to be free. Together they faced the storm. The first wave struck, blinding light engulfing the ruins. Yet within that blaze their figures stood side by side, an alien weapon who had found her heart, and a human who refused to break. The galaxy would remember this night, not for the machines that fell, not for the fire that burned, but for the moment when a weapon built to destroy humanity chose instead to protect it, for the moment when she was no longer a weapon. She was alive, and she loved.